Morning, guys. Okay, so today we're going to be working on the Sammy again, and um, I guess what we're trying to achieve is get that stereo installed. That's going to require removing the dash and trying to get a bracket onto the back of that radio to hold it in place. But I can tell you, I already been out there and just kind of looked at it, and I can already see where somebody's mangled up some screws and stuff like that on the dash. So don't look at this video as being a how-to. It very well could be a how not to. But this is off-road buggy, so redneck engineering is allowed, and we'll probably end up siliconing that thing into the dash rather than use that rear bracket. But we'll attempt it and see if we can do it the right way first. See how it goes. So one of the things I noticed right off the bat is somebody's already had their way with some of these screws. And usually, typically this comes from using like a number 2 screwdriver whenever it's actually, a much larger head needed on it. So as I was doing that, I noticed that the dash area here already had a seam in it. And so what I decided to do, because here's our hole for the radio, is take out these vents and see if I can just remove this centerpiece. That'll make our job a lot easier, because I really don't want to get into all of this heater mess down here. Alright, so on the back side of this thing, there's these little clips. And so if you slowly work it with a screwdriver, it'll pop right out of that hose area. And these little clips, there's actually supposed to be some, oh, there they are, metal clips up in here. Slide down into the side of this thing like that, and that holds it in place. So you can slowly work these things out with the screwdriver and pop this off, and then we're going to try to take this frontal piece off. Worst case scenario, we'll have to silicone that back into place if it doesn't stay on its own, just from being weathered and worn and clips not working right and all that kind of stuff. When these things have been through the mud, they accumulate and accumulate and accumulate all kinds of debris and everything else. So sometimes getting it off is one thing, getting it back on is another. What clued me in on this is somebody, and it's not picking it up, I saw this crack. And so that kind of clued me in. Somebody has pried on this thing or something before, because it's a kind of an oddball place for the crack to be right in the center like that. So I kind of shimmied over on to this side, and we're slowly working it off. We'll see how it goes. Alright, now we've got this thing freed up. If nothing else, we've got side access into where that that bracket needs to go in the back of the radio. So we will see how this goes from here. I wish there were some damn screws. I hate to be prying on this thing and then find out I gotta glue it back into place. Alright, so we've got our old plug for the clock, and my idea is to try to utilize this power and see if we can determine, because it's a clock, if we've got a constant power, if we've got regular power. Now I know that whenever I turn on the lights, that was lighting up a light inside the clock. So I know I've got something tied into the lights up here. I need to eliminate that. But then I need to find my constant, my ground, and whatnot. And one of the ways that you can do this, using just a regular meter, is to figure out your ohm. So I've got what I think is the ground here. Tie that out and find a ground. Okay, so we know that this top one up here is at least our ground. Now we just need to go find our power. So apparently I've got a cross over here. I've got 14 volts down here, and I'm going to turn off the ignition, find out if that'll eliminate the power. And it does. So if I only want to run the radio with this on, that would be one way of doing it. And then my fourth one, I also get 14 volt power. And if I turn that off, 14 volt. So this is my constant, this is my ignition source. Not sure. See if we can figure out the light. Okay, so up here that I thought was ground here a second ago, turned on the light, turn off the light, and it goes back to reading a connection to that. So I'm no electrician, but we're going to leave this little doodad here alone, which is our red and white wire, because it's going into the lights. Turn the lights on, 14 volt. Turn the lights off, pretty little beep. Okay, so power is 0. Turn the ignition on, 14 volt. Power is 14, ignition off. So at least we know this is our power, which is a white and a black. This is our constant, which is a white, and I got 2 of them running in there. And then we're hoping that this black is truly our ground. So let's see if we can do some wiring. All right, so when we're wiring these things up, typically what I like to do is get things out of our way. Just be a little better organized. You're not tripping over your other wiring and whatnot. So to explain to you what we're going to be doing, ultimately, we're going to tie it into this amp back here that's up on the roof. So right now, I'm just going to tape up everything that I know that goes to my speakers, get those out of the way. Now, more than likely, we'll probably be tying in to these guys here. Which are also your speakers, you know, rear end and out, front line out. Now, all of them except for this one, which is your radio antenna. So what I'm doing is I've got a Boss Marine, basically a boat antenna. You can use them on motorcycles, boats, everything else. But we're going to tie this into, it's basically a dash antenna. The less things you have on the outside, that branches and stuff like that can catch, the better. So this is our antenna. We'll run up inside there. It goes into that slot right there. And because we really don't want to have to tie it, you know, open this thing up again as we're installing, I'm just gonna put a little electrical tape on there. And we'll call that an anchor. keep them suckers together. Alright, so there's our antenna. That'll feed up inside here. See what kind of connection we get here in a little bit. This is a Boss Marine radio. Good for ATVs, boats, you name it. It's all sealed up. So when we're pressure washer in the dash, getting all the mud and all that kind of stuff off, this protects your radio. So we will go forward, wiring this thing up, see if we can get some power. Alright, so been messing with wires. Got a problem with the ground in here. So anyway, so the ground on that clock was just acting really weird. So I ended up running another ground wire up just as a tester. Went ahead and ran a couple of power wires just in case I wasn't going to be able to utilize this clip, which I did for the constant. I removed the power wire out of it, and just going to use that as a separate wire, separate from this plug. But anyway, got it all working now. The basic function. Got it ran right now off of these up to the amp just to get me some speakers before I wire in those other ones. Looks like I'm going to be needing another cable for my rears. That way I can separate the front from the rear. And then I'll do all my wiring for the speakers back up in the amp. But at least we got it all working now. So take it from here. Okay, so we got the radio pretty much wired and got that settled. Searching down some wires, I think I actually fried one of my overhead LEDs. So maybe getting a new one of those here pretty shortly. But this wiring here, somebody decided to run through the speaker hole, and it's blocking me off. And so I've sit there tried to trace those wires. I think they're going to the amp and to the rear LEDs and no telling what else. But I'm having trouble tracing them up inside the dash. So rather than cut these wires and splice them, I'm going to try to open that hole up just a tad, just enough to get it out of the way of the speaker and let it come out on top of the speaker. We'll see if that works. That's what people get for doing shortcuts. Now I'm about to do a shortcut. So, sorry to the next guy. Okay, so we steadily been fishing wires. Right now we're running the USB and the auxiliary up into the glove compartment. So that will fit right up in there like that, all snazzy and stuff. We've got our speaker wires ran for this side. We've got our RCA cable for the amp. So we're steadily making progress. Need the cable, the button for the start. That's funny. All right. Just gotta work that back. Okay. Handy dandy fishing rod here. Old school rotator. Now we need the auxiliary we need the USB charging. Fun stuff. All right. And I think we are wired, with the exception of putting the speakers into the actual amp itself. So, fun stuff. Big old mess.
I know there are so many great artists coming to Radio Houston, and you are so meant to announce for these tickets. We got another chance for you to pick a pair, and it's going to be coming up today, shortly after 2 o'clock on 100.
All right, so finally got the stereo radio installed. Ran into all kinds of problems caused by whoever. Just a lot of pre-existing crap, feeding wires, trying to get the speaker set, little stuff like that. So got irritated and started shortcutting rather than rewiring, because apparently that's all up in the dash. Speaking of the dash, couldn't get the dash out. So, went up through the air vents, and it seemed to work, so it's all good. I crank it up, but probably pissed the neighbor off quite a bit. So anyway, that's that project down in the books. To be honest with you, I don't remember what the next project is. Oh, yes I do. Gas gauge. I ain't shitting you. That sucker don't work, so we're gonna change out the fuel sender. So that'll be coming up here pretty soon. But anyway, if you want a cool radio without, if you don't have the radio box on these Sammys and that kind of stuff, pick you up one of these Marine Boss gauge radios. Pretty nifty. So anyway, we'll catch you next time. I'm not saying that Michelle Obama's a man. I'm just saying you can make fender flares out of a kiddie pool.